The mysterious disappearance of Flight 19. Have you ever heard of 5 powerful military aircraft vanishing into thin air? Without a trace? No distress signal. No wreckage. No bodies. Just gone. This is not a movie plot. It's a real event that shook the world. 5 bombers, 1 experienced pilot, and 14 crew members. All disappeared. And when a rescue plane was sent to find them, it disappeared too. Before we dive into this chilling story of mystery, confusion, and unanswered questions, kindly subscribe to my channel and like this video so you won't miss more fascinating true stories like this one. Now, let's uncover what really happened to Flight 19. It was 14:10 hours on December 5, 1945, when 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from U.S. Naval Air Station Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on what was supposed to be a routine training mission. The flight, designated Flight 19, was led by Lieutenant Charles Carroll Taylor, a seasoned pilot with over 2,500 hours of flight experience, including a combat tour in the Pacific Theater during World War II. This wasn't just a typical day. Taylor had been through worse. But today, something would go terribly wrong. The mission was clear. A practice navigation flight over the Atlantic Ocean, known as Navigation Problem Number 1. The plan was set. Fly from Fort Lauderdale, head out for Hen and Chicken Shoals, conduct low-level bombing, then continue to 3 more waypoints before returning to base. The weather was mild, with only a few scattered showers across the area, and visibility seemed standard for a training flight. The start was routine. Everything went according to plan. Taylor led his squadron of 5 bombers as they flew toward Hen and Chicken Shoals, where they conducted their bombing run as scheduled around 1,430 hours. Everything was still normal. By 1,500 hours, one of the student pilots had completed his bombing run and requested permission to drop his final bomb. Taylor granted the request, and the operation proceeded smoothly. However, as they turned to begin the second leg of their mission, something was wrong. At 1,600 hours, a strange radio transmission echoed from the squadron. It was clear the pilots were no longer on track. "I don't know where we are. We must have gotten lost after that last turn," one of the student pilots was heard saying. And then, Taylor's voice crackled over the radio. "Both my compasses are out, and I am trying to find Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm over land, but it's broken. I'm sure I'm in the Keys, but I don't know how far down, and I don't know how to get to Fort Lauderdale." The men of Flight 19 were lost. It was a haunting realization. Taylor, an experienced pilot, was now doubting his bearings. Was he over the Florida Keys? Or was he further out, in unfamiliar waters? The pilots had no way of knowing. At this moment, the air grew tense. Taylor, usually confident and steady, was now unsure. The squadron's navigational instruments, crucial to any mission, were malfunctioning. Taylor had no compass readings he could rely on. For all he knew, he was far from where he thought he was. As the minutes passed, the situation only worsened. Taylor's voice was crackling through the radio, speaking with increasing urgency. The flight leader's frustration was palpable as he said, "Damn it, if we could just fly west we would get home. Head west, damn it." But for reasons unknown, Taylor didn't take the suggestion. Instead, he ordered his squadron to head east, further into the open Atlantic. As the planes flew on, the feeling of uncertainty was overwhelming. They had crossed the boundary of training and ventured into something far more dangerous. In the distance, the setting sun cast an eerie glow across the sky. The weather deteriorated, clouds darkened, and soon the men of Flight 19 were flying blind, unable to rely on their instruments, unable to find their way. A small group of military personnel, monitoring the flight on the ground, tried to help. They attempted to contact Taylor and the crew via radio, but nothing worked. The radio frequencies were switched, but still, No clear answers came back from the flight. At one point, a voice was heard over the radio in increasing distress. "All planes, close up tight. We'll have to ditch unless landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we all go down together." The last transmission from Flight 19 came at 18:20 hours. Taylor, sounding more resigned than ever, spoke. "All planes close up tight. We'll have to ditch unless landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we all go down together." Those were the final words anyone would hear from Flight 19. By the time the transmission ended, the crew had lost hope. They were stranded somewhere between the Bahamas and Florida, but no one knew exactly where. The flight's fuel was running low, and time was running out. At 1800 hours, before the final transmission even came through, the Navy had already begun a search and rescue operation. A PBM Mariner flying boat was dispatched from the NAS Banana River in Brevard County, Florida, to search the open ocean. But as night fell and the minutes stretched on, the P.B.M-5 with its crew of 13 men quickly disappeared from the radar, vanishing like the men they were searching for. The night was thick with uncertainty. It seemed as though something out of the ordinary was at play. The P.B.M-5 Mariner, known for occasional accidents, was assumed to have exploded mid-air, but no one could be certain. A merchant ship passing through the area the following night reported seeing a burst of flame in the sky, followed by an oil slick in the water. The next day, December 6th, dawned with a renewed search effort. The Navy cast a wider net, combing 300,000 square miles of ocean, desperately hoping for any sign of the missing planes. Rescue teams scoured the seas by air and sea for the next 5 days, all to no avail. Not a single piece of wreckage, no oil slick, no body was ever found. It seemed like a black hole had opened in the sky, swallowing the planes and their crews without a trace. There was no evidence, no explanation. Flight 19 and their rescuers had simply disappeared. Theories of the disappearance. Since that fateful day, speculation has run rampant about what happened to Flight 19. Over the years, several theories have been proposed. 1. Pilot error. The most widely accepted theory points to pilot error. Taylor, having lost his bearings and relying on faulty instruments, mistakenly believed he was flying over the Florida Keys when he was actually far off course, possibly over the Bahamas. His decision to head east instead of west could have led the flight out into the open Atlantic, where the planes eventually ran out of fuel. 2. Technical malfunction. Another theory suggests that the malfunctioning compasses may have thrown the flight off course. Without proper equipment and no clear visibility, the pilots were left to rely on instinct, leading them astray. 3. The Bermuda Triangle. Of course, no story about mysterious disappearances is complete without a mention of the Bermuda Triangle. Some believe that the flight encountered some kind of paranormal anomaly that caused the planes to vanish without a trace. Whether it was a storm, a shift in the Earth's magnetic field, or something even stranger, the idea of the Bermuda Triangle has been a fan favorite. 4. Explosion of the PBM-5. The final theory concerning the disappearance of the PBM-5 Mariner aircraft centers on a technical malfunction. The Mariner was known to be prone to explosions when fuel vapors accumulated in its fuselage, and it's thought that the plane may have met such a fate. The oil slick reported by the merchant ship that night could very well have been evidence of such an explosion. The end of the mystery? Despite years of searching, despite countless theories, the truth behind the disappearance of Flight 19 remains a mystery. Some say it's simply a tragic accident. Others argue it was a combination of poor weather, broken instruments, and human error. And still, there are those who believe something more supernatural was at play, something beyond our understanding. One thing is certain. Flight 19 and its crew are forever etched in history as one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time, leaving only questions and the haunting silence of the Atlantic. And that is the chilling mystery of Flight 19. A story that still haunts the skies and the sea to this day. No wreckage, no signals, just silence. What do you think really happened out there? Kindly subscribe to my channel, like this video, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your theories.